Hey there, boys and girls of the YouTube world. Today, the Duff Dog and I are going to take this 1956 Ford two-door post and see if we can't make it just a little bit cooler. I'm thinking maybe a gasser, maybe NASCAR, maybe a lowrider, maybe a custom. Maybe we'll just leave it as scrap iron. So stick along, find out what we do with it. So the story on this 1956 Ford is that my buddy Bill, the scrap guy, called me and said, hey, I got a bunch of cars I got to go pick up. You want to come look? And this was there. The gentleman who was getting rid of it, his brother had raced it back in the day. You'll find out that there's some headers in the back. You'll find out it's got some traction bars. And you'll also find out that there was maybe a battery in the trunk. So they took it racing. Oh, and there's a tow bar in the trunk as well. So this thing was super fast. Long story short, I gave Bill $200 for this thing, which is a little bit more than scrap. And now we're gonna see if we can't make it just a little bit better than it was. Let's take a look at this gem and see what we got. So it's a cool blue and white. It's got some kind of neat patina. You can see they took all the trim off and filled the holes poorly at that. But the big thing to me is it's two-door and it's got all the glass in it. So that means the floorboards should be a lot better. And that means if I get it going, I'll have glass in it because I'm not a glass guy. It is, however, missing the rear end. The deck lid needs a little love, but race car thing, so we can just pin that on there. We're missing some tail lights. This corner got a little bit whammied, but we can do a little body work if we got to. There's a little bit of rust in the lower rockers, but overall it's pretty respectable for being a, what, 70-year-old car. There's the ladder bars or traction bars. There's the tow bar and the battery cables for the rear-mounted battery. Looks like somebody screwed the floor up with the telehandler. Don't worry, we'll fix that. The hood hinges are a little bit screwed up, but again, race car, we don't need those. Kind of like wipers, he took them off because race car. It does not roll up front, and it's gonna need brakes. I put some trailer wheels on it just to make it roll. They're hideous. Also, because race car, they took the bumper off and the marker lights out. The neat thing about these is 56 Ford's got an oval, 55s are round. I prefer the 55s. So yeah, it's kind of already got that race car look going for it. So here's what I'm thinking of this thing. We got the Snutch Rocket, which I think is based off a 1968 Ford Galaxy chassis. It's got disc brakes that work. It's got a 9-inch with a posi in the rear. It's got a small block automatic Ford that ran pretty good. We haven't used it in 2 years. So let's cut the subframe off of this, made it to this. So then we get disc brakes, we get power steering, we get our engine mounts, we get the radiator, we get the gas pedal, we get the shifter, we get the steering, we get the fuel cell. We get pretty much everything to make this thing run and drive. This car, however, is a leaf spring rear end. The Snutch Rocket has coils in the rear, so we're gonna have to figure out a way to mount the rear end, which wouldn't be a big deal if this thing still had leaf springs, but there's no leaf springs, and they also cut the mounts out. So we gotta figure out something to do there. And yes, we could convert it to a 4-link, but that doesn't sound like any fun. So that's the first thing. Let's get a rear end under this thing. Let's get it lifted up in the air, see what we're dealing with, see if we can find some leaf springs. Get a look at the bottom of the old Blue Bandit here before we go ahead and start ripping into it. Oh, there's the aforementioned rust in the quarter panels. And that might have been why they quit racing it. That's a rod that got hucked right out the side. We're gonna offer that up to the old gods of speed. Comment down below if you know what that is. Is that an FE, Y block maybe? So, because it's a race car, the fuel tank's missing, or maybe that just rotted out of there, but there's the fuel fill. Spare tire's all rotten anyway, so we can cut that out. We can probably bash the floor back down. Here's where the rear shackles would be. We just need some new shackles there to mount some springs. Of course, we're gonna have to do a little trimming of the fat on the quarter panels. Weight reduction. Shocks are still here. There's those ladder bars I was talking about. This one's kind of kicking out the side and unfortunately dented up the car a little bit. We're gonna do a little body work on the old rocker panel too. But overall, it's pretty solid, just this rust in the quarters. Here's the problem. Here's where the leaf spring mount was on the front. I'm guessing they had a 9-inch in it or something, but they wanted the rear end out of it. So they torched these brackets out. So we either gotta make new brackets or cut them off a different car. And I don't really wanna ruin another car, but gotta do what we gotta do, we'll see. The frame's a little scaly, but it's solid, so should be good. Check out that angle iron ladder bar mount. Oh, they torched it to get in there to hold the nuts on the backside. Wow, or maybe those are lightning holes. That's what it is. Those are for lightning and for letting dirt in there to rust out the frame. Looks like the same fabricator made us a angle iron transmission mount as well. And like all good race cars, looks like they had a floor shifter in it for likely a 3-speed, but maybe it was a 4-speed, who knows? Speaking of 4-speeds, I'm pretty sure it's got clutch pedals. I would imagine it was probably a 6-cylinder 3 on the tree car. Usually the 2-door posts were the bare bone model, and that would be in the smallest engine, which would be an inline 6. And the cheapest transmission, which would be the 3-speed on the tree. I don't believe you could get a 4-speed on the floor in a 1956 Ford car, unless it was a Thunderbird. Yeah, nothing noteworthy up here. It does look like they torched out the upper control arms for clearance for headers, no doubt, because yay headers. Oh, no way. There's a fuel block up there. They had dual carbs on whatever was in here. So that's the other cool thing. I think this gentleman bought either a 69 or a 70 Mustang Fastback, brand new. His brother bought a twin to it. They're both FE cars, 4-speed cars, and I think they've got them both. For sure, the brother that I bought this from has got it. So he didn't know much about this car. It was his brother's deal. He didn't know what he was racing with it, but I do remember him saying that, yeah, he blew it up, brought it home, and was gonna go back. Never did. It's a shame this old girl can't talk. Oh, he's got the heater block off plate. Oh yeah, this thing was super fast and lightweight. There's where the original rear engine mounts were. They cut those out. It's a rear steer, much like the Snutch Rocket, so it should be a pretty straightforward swap. So I think we'll just cut the other one off here and this one off here and splice the two together, go from there. It's got the master cylinder on the firewall, so that should make it pretty easy to mount the master cylinder and everything from the Snutch Rocket right up there. We'll have to make a steering column because this column is directly mounted to the steering sector. So we'll have to make something there, but again, all that stuff should be on the Snutch Rocket. And this thing doesn't roll, but the Snutch Rocket does, and it stops. All right, I'm gonna go dig through my stash, see what I can find for some leaf springs so that we can get those in there so we can get a rear end on this thing so that we can A, make it look a lot cooler, B, make it a little bit mobile, and C, make it that much closer to being whatever it is that we decide to make out of it. I'm kind of leaning towards the NASCAR look, not the gasser look. We already did the 4-wheel drive 56 Pontiac. Go check that video out. But that's kind of what I want to compare this to. We got two pieces of junk in the yard. We got the Snutch Rocket, and we got this, and let's combine them into one, into something we can do something with. Mud truck was neat, but we can only use it a couple weeks out of the year. If we make this into a driver with kind of a NASCAR theme, we could drive it every Sunday for NASCAR races, or we could just use it as a commuter. The 4-wheel drive thing, I suppose we could drive it all winter. We have to put heat in it though. All right, back to work. I just noticed that's a big aluminum block off plate on the steering column. How neat is that?
That's pretty neat.
All right, here's what we found in the scrap pile. Donor number 2, well, donor number 1, car number 2. I think this is like a 60 Ford frame. I don't know. Anyway, it's got our leaf spring mounts. It's got our leaf springs. It's got some shackles. It's got things. These springs I think are wider and just a hair longer than what was on that car, but we'll make them work. Also, looks like they got a little de-archery going on there. Whatever that means. Torches here. This frame is junk. I bought it for the rear end, which I already took out of it. And like a decent human being, I took the rear end out properly and didn't torch the leaf springs off, but this thing's never going back under a car. It is hot, hot garbage. But good thing I saved it. Comment down below if you know what this chassis is. I thought it had the narrow 9-inch rear end like a 57, 8, 9. It did not, is the wider one. But it's pre-64 because I believe the Ford full-size cars went to coil springs in 1965. So I should say it's 64 and older. I think it's a 60 to 64 frame. All those that want to pop out of there? Weird. Who'd have thought? Now we just got to figure out how to get these shackle bolts out of the frame. Oh yeah, baby. Yes. Sweet. This side don't want to go as bad. Come on. Big bar time. She's seasoned. Carpe the diem. Seize the carp.
Carpe the diem. Seize the carp.
All right, I'm done asking. Got any other ideas? Is that pin moving or is it knocked out of the knurling? The pin ain't moving?
Nope.
What the heck? All right, well, let's torch the head off that sucker and find a new bolt. Now that we got our leaf springs harvested, let's go ahead and get all this other junk out of the way. Yeah, the old ladder bars, they gotta go. And then we're gonna get rid of the shocks and anything else. And then we gotta figure out where the center line of the car is for the rear axle. And then get our leaf springs, figure out where that center line is, and get them so that the rear wheels are centered. Because if your wheels aren't centered in your wheel wells, don't show your car in public. Because I will make fun of you. This is ingenious, just a couple of flat straps welded to a tube, a bolt through it, and then a couple of nuts in there as spacers. High quality stuff there. Whatever works, I guess. Now that we got the old traction bars and shocks and everything out of the way, we got our shocks cleaned up because I don't think this mount's gonna work for us. I measured the distance between that front spring eye and the pin that aligns your center of your axle, and we got about 25.5 inches. I got a center line marked right here, which is the center of our bump stop, which also lines up with the center of our wheel opening. I got our straight edge put in there vertical, and I measured from our straight edge to right about there. We're gonna drill a hole in the frame, and then we're gonna cut a little pocket out here, and we're gonna just put our leaf spring in there, put our bolt through there. We can gusset this up or beef it up or plate it or fish plate it or do whatever. But the nice part about that is, instead of having the leaf spring down here, it'll go up to here, so it should be lower, and then we'll just have to figure out what we're gonna do in the back. So I'm gonna drill a hole and cut up some frame rails so we can get a rear end in this thing. See, all I did was get our center line, put this straight edge on there, clamped it in place, made sure it's level, and then I measured from that front edge 25.5 inches back, and we wanted it to end up pretty much in the center of the frame rail. That's where it's gotta be. Unfortunately, it's pretty close to this body mount, but we'll figure it out. Drilled where our hole was marked, cut a rectangular hole here, slipped our spring in there, put our bolt through there. This thing should be good. If you're crazy about it, you can add like a doubler plate on the bottom side here, and then a guy really should put a fish plate or something on the outside to spread that load out a little bit. But all the pressure is going to be wanting to go that way and or that way. So yeah, if you put a thicker plate up there, should be fine. But for mock-up, what we're doing right now, this will be good. Guys do this in 55 to 57 Chevys all the time to move the springs. They're outboard of the frame. They move them to actually inside the frame and not inboard. They move them right in the frame. That way gives you some more clearance for some tires. And also, instead of being below here, raising it up there is gonna give us a couple inches of drop as well. So double whammy. So in the back here, it looks like the leaf spring sat up here and then the shackles went up to the leaf spring. Or you could flip it around and it could be on the bottom side. But we're gonna do something similar back here. We're gonna get rid of this old shackle mount and we're gonna drill a hole through the frame, and then we'll put like a bushing and a flat plate up in there and get her all gusset it up real good. And then we'll have our shackle coming down to our leaf spring. It should be good to go. We shall see, but I think for right now, we're just gonna get rid of this, and then the leaf spring can sit up tight against this and just ride on this to figure out our ride height, because we might have to bring it down lower to get the stance we want or whatever. And it should be fine just rubbing up against this for now. Let's give her a whirl. Get the torch out, knock some rivets off, go from there. For now, I think we're just gonna let this spring right against the bottom of the frame until we figure out where everything's gotta be before we drill a hole and plate it and put a bushing and everything. So let's go ahead and go to the other side. Oh yeah, it's got a spool in it. That'll be fun to turn. All right, frickin' A array is involved. Got the 6-foot extensions. Let's see if we can't lift the 9-inch into place. You don't think it's gonna do it or what, Duff? Oh yeah, and I got some 295 50-15 dueler HPs mounted up on the old D holes. These are 15 by 8s. They came with a short bed Chevy that we got with some trailer tires on it that were way too narrow. Goodbye Jeep wheels and 225/75 15s. And the Bridgestones were on headers by Ed. It's got some big old fatty Bridgestone duelers on it. So literally I got nothing into these. And that's what I want for this car, big and wide. So this rear end, I think, is 3 or 4 inches wider than the stock one. The track width is like 58 inches on these cars, and it's like 61 on this car. So they're gonna stick out, and that is what I want. Big wide tires, sticking way out. Heck with rock chips. So I think I'm gonna pull this rear end off. We're gonna get her lifted in place, try to get the leaf springs up in there, and go from there. Because I'm guessing we're gonna have to trim out some quarter panels. Because if we don't have to trim out quarter panels, we are doing it wrong. Let's be honest, we're doing it wrong anyway. I think we have succeeded in making the wheel stick out. We can always find a narrower rear axle if we got to, or narrow up a 9-inch. I think that's the look we want. Oh yeah, that'll do. That'll do, pig. That'll do.
That'll do, pig, that'll do.
We're gonna have to cut some brackets off that rear end. We're gonna have to radius that wheel well like I wanted to. We're gonna get this tucked about up into here. We can actually go, oh, we can go so far up there. Cool, I think it's gonna work. My biggest concern was the width. I didn't want them sticking the whole tire all the way out here, and then I didn't want them tucking tire in there, which is usually what we want. I want them to stick out just a little bit. Looks like we got, I don't know, 3 inches hanging out on each side. Should be good to go. Now the fun begins. Cutting wheel wells, cutting brackets off that rear end so it'll never go back in the snitch rocket, but the plan is to cut that snitch rocket up, put the front end in here anyway, so let's cut the rear end up. All right, I got a rear end kind of mounted in there. We didn't do anything with the leaf springs at the rear yet, and I don't really like the U-bolt situation, but it's clamped in place, so now we can figure out our radius for wheel wells and get some wheels on it, and then get some weight on it and set our pinion angle and get some different clamps and figure out our shackles and all that good stuff. But check this out. Here's about ride height anyway. Seems like it. I'm hoping it's gonna be a little bit lower, and we can always put some blocks between the leaf springs and the rear end. That's the beauty of putting your rear end above your leaf springs, is you can put a block in there and raise her up a bit. But yeah, that's kind of gonna be ride height. Because this is a 26-inch wheel, and I put the center of our axle 13 inches up in the air. And so we gotta do a little bit of cutting. I don't think that's enough cutting. So we're gonna have to do something to get this thing lower, because I really want to butcher them wheel wells. Let's take a break from the back. We got to mount up the shackles on the back, but I think I got something for that. I got some sliders coming from Speedway, and those just mount to the bottom of the frame, and then you put the leaf spring right in there, and it slides back and forth. I've never used them before. They look pretty slick. They say they work really well, and super easy to install. So we'll see what those things look like when they show up, and if they're even going to work. I'm thinking we're gonna have to put some blocks under the rear end because it's not gonna be low enough for my liking, but that's easy enough to do later. Worst case scenario, we get some different springs, or we re-arch these springs. Yeah, you guys probably wanna see us re-arch some springs. I got a trick for that. But anyway, let's go to the front. Let's get the hood off. Let's get the steering disconnected. Let's get our center line of our front wheels marked. Let's get our front clip probably unbolted. I think we're just gonna take it off and get it out of the way for now, and then we'll bring the snitch rocket in here and cut that one apart and mesh the two. We gotta go through the inside of this thing. Those look like FE valve covers? Or are they Y block? I think they're FE. Some chunks of some headers in there. Oh, those are FE headers for sure. Gonna use our old plumb bob here to try and figure out the center line of the wheel opening. How's that look, Duff? Your nose is wet. Does that mean it's going to be a long, cold, snowy winter if your nose is wet? Right about in there. Gonna go mark the other side while we're at it. Also, no inner fenders in this thing. Fender well headers probably, race car stuff. Oh, there's a hood emblem right here, and they just schmooed it all in DD Speed Shop style. Oh, they did do a little lead work up in here though. I don't know these cars that well, but there was a big Ford placard right there, and they just schmoothed that in, and there must have been a like a wing there or a rocket or something. And they bronzed that or soldered it or something. It's not lead. Nothing but the finest bodywork. How do we get you open? If only Duff was here. He hasn't opened a hood in quite a while. There we go. All right, let's not whammy up our hood too much. We need a tunnel ram for the small block Ford that's in this snitch rocket so we can cut a hole in this terrible hood. Oh, good grief. Man gets decapitated by 55 Ford hood.
One eternity later.
Well, that was a fiasco. Whoops. Let's show you how we know this thing was a race car. I did not know about this before, but this is a fuel block. So you'd have your fuel pump going in here, and then it splits off to 2 carburetors. So I'm guessing this thing had an FE in it with dual quads on it. Or maybe it was a Y block with 2 barrels. We may never know. But anyway, that's how you distribute fuel amongst multiple carburetors, is with a fuel block. We got the aluminum block off plate for the heater core over here. They did the same thing around the steering column and the clutch pedal linkage. You'll notice the lack of inner fenders. And last but not least, the butchery on the upper control arm mounts for headers, no doubt. Then there's also the lack of a front bumper, marker lights, headlights, not only for weight savings, but weight transfer to the rear. Same deal, move the battery to the rear for more traction, better weight transfer. Let's get this front clip off of here and out of the way and start doing a little butchering. All right, it's a race car front end, should be light, right? Tell that to my chiropractor. Okay, it's just awkward. Bottoms of those fenders are screwed up anyway, so let's just drag them across the floor. Oh yeah, look at that. So much room for activities.
Look at all this floor space. So much aerobics in here. So many activities.
Cool, I guess we're gonna cut a brake line, cut a steering shaft, and cut a front end off. The old Irwin power slot, not a paid promotion. It's got the brake line under control. There we go, I think we got everything pretty much prepped for a cut. You wanna do a little measuring at this time and figure out where all your cuts gotta be placed, but just notice this, I think these were the fresh air vents. They got that blocked off as well. That doesn't look like aluminum, that was steel. Oh, maybe it's aluminum. Anyway, I'm gonna take the idler arm bracket off over here, and then I think we're ready to start doing a little cutting and measuring. Measuring and then cutting? Yeah, measure once, cut twice. Got snitch rocket in here on the lift, raised the real MVP, skidded this son of a gun in here. I'm gonna pull this thing all apart, and by apart I mean I'm gonna take the radiator out, engine, transmission, disconnect all the electrical, fuel lines, brakes, all that stuff, and then we're just gonna have the bare subframe sitting here because that'll make it easier to handle and slide around. It kind of sucks taking all that stuff apart just so we can put it back together again in that car, but it'll make our lives a whole lot easier. Unfortunately, the frame on that thing is 34 inches wide, and the frame on this, on the inside is 33 inches wide, and that one on the outside is 34 inches wide. So we got about a ½ inch of interference on either side. In an ideal world, they would just butt right up, but this is not an ideal world, and we're just gonna have to figure it out. That being said, I'm gonna start ripping this thing apart. Here we go. Here's the plan. There's no plan. I'm going to cut this frame long and that frame long so that we got plenty of room to mate them together. Wish me luck. Say we got to readjust our lift. Oh, those don't turn. Now I guess we just got to do the same thing to that. Somehow get them to fit back together. Do a little mock-up here. Got the front end set on there. This is where I want ride height to be with the lift all the way down. So if we wheel the front end over here, we should be pretty close to where it needs to be if we weld it on there with the lift all the way down. Wish us luck. Looks pretty cool, don't it? And then that wheel's going to be pushed out, and we're going to get some radius action on that wheel well. There you go, one round snow truck. Not much left of the snow truck. Don't worry, we won't throw it away. So you can see how this mates up. Actually looks pretty decent right here, but this needs to come back like 8-10 inches. What do you think, Duff? We're gonna make this work? You ready to go for an RIDE? Yeah. Hey, the steering looks like it might line up. Here's the not so good part. That frame is a little bit wider than that frame, or that frame's narrower than this frame. Yeah. So I think what I'm gonna do is cut down the middle of this back however far we need it to be, and then make a C-channel. So leave one C-channel attached to the car, take the other one off for now, and then we'll use that as a gusset, fish plate later. But that's what we got to do. In an ideal world, they would line right up, but they don't. And I think this is going to butt up pretty much right up to our body mount up there once we get it figured out. So I'm going to get this centered left and right. I should have braced that side to side, but it didn't seem like it moved. It's tied to the body up there, so it can't really go very far. That's what we're going to do now. Now's the fun, all the fitting and squaring and measuring and leveling, and then we tack it, put the front end on it and the wheels back on it, see how it looks, take it off, weld it, put the front end in it, hope it all works. We'll see. Progress, right, Duff? At least that front end is nice and light to move without any inner fenders or anything in it, really. Race car stuff. I don't know how many hours I've spent taking this on and off and measuring and cutting and grinding and smoothing and measuring and cutting and grinding and smoothing and rolling this on and off, but I'm ready to set the front clip on there and to see how the wheels line up. And then I think we're ready to burn it on. Oh, and leveling. We've been doing the leveling thing. So, wish us luck. Speaking of level, that's not level. Cripes! Urgh. Now let's put that front clip on there. I need a ratchet strap that just goes from side to side and put it over my shoulders. I just saw it move. Awesome. That used some muscles that haven't been moved in a while. I can see the frame horns need to be cut off to get the front of the front clip down, and that's gonna center up the wheel wells when we do that. So I guess we'll do that right away. Yeah, that's gotta come down a bunch. The radiator support is really close to the cross member on this subframe. Hopefully we can cut the frame horns off and it'll fit. I really don't wanna have to mess with that cross member or the radiator support. Come on back. Yeah, that's right. Get the old Miller 200 out. I got her tacked in place so that it doesn't roll around. It looks like she's pretty much centered up with my marks on the fender. We also got the front end to go down far enough to close up our door gaps. Too far, but anyway, we'll have to make a bracket up there anyway to hang the core support. Now we gotta blend all that together and make it good and strong and structural. But we got to that point.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
Check this out. So proud of that. Look at how the steering lines up with the steering wheel. It's a little bit higher than the original one, but she's pretty much spot on left and right. So that's gonna be real good. Sweet. Duff's been helping me move a front end and measure and square and level all morning. He's excited about it. All right, I'm gonna go do other stuff. You go ahead and try to melt all that together. Make it look good too. More importantly, make it structural so it doesn't, the front end doesn't fall off.
Where's the metal pile? I need a lot. I need a couple pieces.
We got there's a whole snitch rocket frame out back. You can steal pieces of it.
Okay.
I got to thinking last night when I was dragging the snitch rocket out of here that maybe I should have just taken this body off and set it on the frame. But I hate making body mounts, although body mounts are a lot easier to make than to do this. And the bad part is, usually the frame contours don't fit anywhere. Kind of like as seen here. And then to get it low, you're kind of stuck with the ride height unless you channel the floor. No. And I don't know if I showed you guys this, but the floor on this car is absolutely spotless. It's insane. The only rust in the floor is the wheel well opening, which is going to go away, and we'll put some aluminum there because race car things. Or steel, because that's what we got. But yeah, the bottom of this car is real nice.
Really nice.
All right, we got slightly more than some tack action going on in there. I actually pie cut the 56 rail and bent it over and kind of formed it into the 68 rail, and now we got to start grafting it in, you know, boxing it, plating it, all that good stuff. That being said, we're keeping tabs on how many vehicles we got into this thing. So by my counts, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got this car, we got the leaf spring car, we got the snutch rocket, the wheels, the tires, OBS spring bolts, and now a grain truck. Let me show you what we got from the grain truck. So like most old grain trucks, had a wooden floor that was shot. Look at this nice sheet of steel that was covering our rotten wood floor. I don't know what gauge that is, but it's heavier than the frame rails that thing had, so should be heavy enough. And we got lots of it. So let's get to work. Gonna do a little CAD, a little cardboard aided drafting. Get the beer boxes out, start doing a little marking, a little scissoring, a little scissor action. Yeah, you're into that. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and transfer the scissored cardboard over to this and get the welder out, do some burning. We got a big day of cutting and welding. There you go, got one pretty big plate in there. We get one on the other side, and then we can start doing all the pretty stuff and boxing it and structuring it. Yeah, gonna be a lot of cutting and grinding, but she's gonna be strong. This video is sponsored by Wolfbox. What is Wolfbox? Wolfbox is an all-included rear view mirror backup camera. And guess what we've got? A 2005 Chevrolet 3/4 ton big block suburban tow pig. And I can't see what's going on back there. And in order to quickly, safely, and efficiently hook up the trailers when I'm by myself like I usually am, we're gonna go ahead and install the Wolfbox backup camera. Everything we need is right here. We got instructions, we got all the wiring we need, and we got our rear view mirror and backup camera display right here. And this is so easy, we're gonna have DB install it. DB's got little to no background in installing backup cameras. He's got a little bit of electrical knowledge, but the instructions are gonna give him all the information that he needs to install this thing. With the Wolfbox kit, it's gonna make backing up and hooking up to trailers super awesome, super easy, super safe. Check out this Wolfbox install. We've got the backup camera mounted right above the license plate, ran the wiring right in through the tailgate for that. Adding power is as simple as routing the power to your cigarette lighter. So my favorite option with this is the backup camera, so I can hook up trailers to my tow pig. It's also got night vision, so it's like seeing things in the day, but it's night. We've also got a forward-facing camera. The nice part about that is I can record driving content while going down the road without having to set up a camera. All we gotta do is pop out the SD card. And not only can I take that footage directly from the SD card, it's also Wi-Fi compatible, so I can transfer that footage directly to my phone and put it right into one of my YouTube videos. So this is a 3-channel device. I've got the backup camera, the forward-facing camera, and it also has the option for an additional cabin camera. So that's plug and play. Just plug it right into the device, and you can put it wherever you want in the cabin. I can keep an eye on things. Works perfect for the Duff cam. So this thing will do all the things I needed to do. It's also voice compatible, shows your time, date, and it's also got GPS, so it gives you your speed as well. Another great option is this is all touchscreen compatible, so I can flip between screens with just a swipe of the finger. Be sure to check out Wolfbox's Black Friday deals, November 20th through December 2nd. You can find them on Amazon or click the link below. And a huge shout out to Wolfbox for sponsoring this video. Now back to your regularly scheduled shenanigans. It is one day, it's 42 grinding discs, 11 feet of welding wire, and a half tank of oxygen later. Argon, welding gas. But the front clip on this thing is attached for good. If you can't weld good, weld a lot. So tech tip of the day, when you're using some crappy old used iron to make plates, make sure the really pitted nasty side is on the inside of your bracket so you don't see it, unlike what I did on these 2 brackets. Hopefully nobody ever sees those. But anyway, a couple things I did learn is make sure you got plenty of batteries and grinding discs and welding gas and welding wire and patience and earplugs and safety glasses. And one other thing, stagger your seams. Just like when you're putting up drywall or sheeting a wall in a building like Nailed It Construction does, make sure you stagger your seams, because if all your seams line up, then that's gonna be your stress point. So we got it all boxed in. Basically it took 4 plates per side. I was able to use the same plate on the inside and outside on both sides. So I cut basically the same plate 4 times over. The bottom plate was the same left to right. The top plate was a little bit different from side to side. The frame is now taller than it was before, so it should be significantly stronger. It is just as wide as it ever was before. I welded a bunch of structure inside, so should be really good. We gotta hook up our steering. So for that, I wanna take the stock steering shaft and grind a couple flats on each side so we can use a double D knuckle, basically what we had on the Snutch Rocket. And for that, I wanna get somebody with a mill, so I'm gonna reach out to my mill person. And we can put the drivetrain in here, but before we do that, I want to get the front clip on here, get it all fitted up, and get our radiator core support all made up. That way, we can climb in and out of the engine bay if we got to do some welding in here. And the other thing is, I don't know, since we moved this up, if we're going to have issues with the floorboard. So we might have to cut our already cut up transmission hump, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We could also maybe cheat the engine down a little bit on these stands. Probably not, because they're pretty short. But anyway, that was a lot of cutting, a lot of grinding, a lot of welding. I did the old heat and beat method with these plates, weld one edge of the plate, and then heated it, bent it around to line up with the frame rail. Seemed to work pretty good. Here's what I'm talking about. That plate's a little scaly. I didn't trim this off because I don't really care. I had to trim it off on the inside so that we could get some good welds on there. Here's what I'm talking about. There's our seam here. This is the seam up here. This seam is a little bit further back on the outside, and then you can see our bottom seam is way up here. So should be plenty strong. And kind of right in here is the heat and beat method. I'd weld that and then pounded it back and then bent it around right there. So should be plenty of structure. It is super tight to our idle arm, but should be fine. There's the driver's side, all kinds of clearance from the steering box, everything bolted back up the way that it was. And look at how good that lines up. Obviously the steering column is laying on the seat, so the angle isn't right, but the hole is dang near in the right spot. And we butchered up a perfectly good piece of sheet metal over here. All right, let's get a front clip fitted on there. And once that's fitted, we'll take it back off, put the engine and transmission in there, hopefully for the final time. The only time. The first and final. Got it closest to where it needs to be, so I'm going to build my mount up front a little bit lower because we can always raise it up, but once we got our mount set in place, we can't lower the mount. You picking up what I'm putting down? We can always shim it up. We can't shim it down. Here's what we're working with. This mount used to hold it, and then I'm guessing there was some other stuff in here. There's not a lot of structure, so good luck with that one. The other thing is we got to put a radiator in here at some point, so we don't want to take up any of that real estate. So make sure to stay out of the way of the radiator. So I was just going to machine a double D onto this 3/4 inch steering shaft, but it's hollow, so you can't machine that because there's not going to be any material left. So we'll have to get an adapter that goes from the spline on the steering box to a 3/4 inch round, and then we'll have to weld it on there, which I don't like doing. The only other option would be to cut this off and splice it, which I don't like doing. So I think welding is going to be our best bet. Because I want to retain the stock steering column setup. Yes, I could take the steering shaft out of the snow truck and we could put that underneath, but I don't like the look of a aftermarket racy steering wheel. You know, we want our NASCAR to fit the bill. Old stuff, not new race car wheels. I changed my mind. I think we're going to wait to make the mounts for the front end until we get the engine in there, and that way we can figure out where the radiator's got to go, and then maybe we can integrate a radiator mount into the core support bracket. Let me show you why. First off, because the radiator mount for the snow truck, it was right up in here, so I don't know if we're gonna have room to move the radiator back. Second of all, there's like no structure. This is just tin. So what I think I'm gonna do is take some angle iron and just bolt to this from there all the way across to the other side, and then we'll set that on top of the frame rails. But there's not gonna be much adjustment to it up and down other than shims. So I'm gonna wait till the engine's in there and make sure that that angle iron, which is gonna run right here, isn't gonna be in the way of our radiator. And then that'll tie the whole thing together and stiffen it up. So I just wasted a bunch of Mojo's time setting this front clip on there. So let's waste a bunch more of his time and have him come help take it off. And then we're gonna grab the engine and transmission and slide it in here. That is after I clean up all this mess and sweep up all the metal chunks so that the cherry picker doesn't get hung up on them. Drivetrain is set in place. We got to figure out our transmission cross member because that didn't come with the subframe, but that's the beauty of these subframes is you can use the power steering hoses, you can use the engine mounts provided it's the same spot. You should be able to use the exhaust manifolds, radiator hoses, electrical, all that good stuff, even the master cylinder and portions of the steering. But let's get this thing lifted up in the air and make a transmission mount. Before we do that, let me show you how much room we got around the bell housing. All kinds of room. We could slide that motor back if we absolutely needed to, but I don't really want to. For our radiator, I think we can take that front pulley off and we can gain, oh, probably 3/4 of an inch there. And then it also looks like there's about an inch between the fan blade and that pulley, so we can move that back 1 3/4 by Finding a different spacer, so hopefully we can get a radiator in this thing, because the nose of a 55 Ford is clearly shorter than a 68 Ford. All right, let's get a transmission mounted. We lucked out on the transmission mount. It's barely wide enough to go across the frame rail. I want to add some brackets to it, but I think we're going to have to either move it up or down. We're going to have to set ride height, and then this is how we're going to level the engine based on the carburetor base. So it's wedged up there for now. It's going to hold it from going anywhere. Mojo's making a bunch of noise back there. But anyway, that's going to work pretty good. Like I said, we're probably going to have to make a piece of angle iron that sits on the frame to bolt that too and put it in place, but we're just going to leave that for now until we get our ride height established. Yeah, this is not going to work. Even if we basically eliminate the fan, we don't got much room for a radiator. Maybe a little narrow one in there, so I think we got to slide the engine back, but we got plenty of room between the firewall, so take the bolts out on the engine mount. That's why I didn't make that transmission mount yet. We take the bolts out of the engine mount, slide everything back, get it in place, and then we'll just weld those engine mounts right to the cross member. Hopefully we don't have to slide it back far enough where they drop off the cross member, and we got to make brackets to hold the mounts. Also, that fan seems really high, so maybe we do want it to go back far enough and drop down. All kinds of room back there. The kick down and the dipstick might get a little close, but we can figure that out if we need to. Right, Duff? But check this out. I kind of like that wheel and tire combo. Chin said don't cut the wheel well, so did DB. You know what that means. We're cutting 3 inches out of this wheel well. Sorry, 56 Ford Pierce. At least we didn't put a small block Chevy in it. I don't hate it, and the beauty is it gives us plenty of room to go lower. You know we like lowering things. We're too far to go back now, so let's do the other side up. I don't know, did we screw up? You think we screwed up? Nah, his tail's wagging. He says looks good. Use the piece we cut out from the other side to make sure it's all symmetrical. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I love screwing up old cars. Now let's head to the back and get that squared away so we can make this thing a roller at least. I've been wanting to use a set of these for quite a while. So this eliminates your shackle. This bolts to the bottom of the frame. Your leaf spring eye goes through there. And as you hit a bump, your shackle's got to go forward and back because your spring, I don't know, what do you call it? The arc changes, the length of your spring. But anyway, this goes back and forth on roller bearings. They make some that have nylon slides that go in there as well, but I think roller bearings are way better. You could make these yourself if you really wanted to. I think they were $50 a piece, so about $100 for a set of these. And they say they make Mopars super great, so we'll see if they make 56 Fords super great. And I like these because they don't have the binding that you get with a set of shackles, and also it's shorter than a shackle in theory. So we're gonna find out. It's got a bunch of holes you can screw it to the frame, or you could weld it to the frame. I always thought it would be neat to get a piece of thick plate, like 1/2 inch, machined out to that oval shape, and then put bearings on the end of the bolt, and then put that right on the side of the frame, cut your frame out, put your leaf spring in there, and then you'd get your car real low, not have to deal with shackle. It'd be super awesome, but maybe it doesn't work. I know somebody who did it in Hawaii with a 57 Chevy, so I know that it works. Anyway, let's put these on our leaf springs, try to get them on there anyway, and we'll go from there. First thing we gotta do is get this rubber bushing out of the spring eye and get this aluminum one that came with the kit in there. So we're gonna take the reamer, try to get that out of there, and my reamers really hate spring steel, so we're probably gonna be buying a new set of reamers before this is over with, but wish us luck. Yeah, that doesn't seem very enthusiastic about going in there. Super. But we can't be having that. I know ideally with this setup you want to get rid of the rubber bushings, I assume for race car purposes. So let's see if we got some polyurethane ones or something we can put in there. I definitely should have checked this out earlier. Story of my life. Rounded up some bushings from early Ford springs. They're a little bit small, but they'll work for now for mock-up purposes. Well, I guess I should have checked to see if that was the right width. Looks like it is. Close enough anyway. There we go. Now we just suck that up to the bottom of the frame rail, get her set at ride height, and at ride height it should be right in the middle of the travel back and forth in this guide, and then we just attach it to the frame. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So with the weight of the car on the axle, set that right in the middle. That way as you hit a bump and it goes back and you get weight on the car, and as you rebound or lift the car up, it'll go ahead. You want it to be right in the middle. So we'll clean this up, throw a couple spot welds on there for now. We're not gonna burn it in place because I'm not so sure I like this, but it is what it is. Like I was talking about before, it'd be really cool to cut that profile out, notch the frame, and then weld that on the side of the frame. And that way you could get the car that much lower. But I don't know that that's what we're going for in this scenario. There you go, she's all mocked up. Obviously we would tie it in better than that once we get to that point, but I'm not so sure. I like these leaf springs. I want to redo the bushings, all that stuff. So that's gonna hold it in place for now. I can't even set it on its own wheel weight because these tires hit the quarters. So guess what? Radius in these things, we took the trunk off. DB helped me unhook the springs. We got the hinges down, so let's throw the deck lid on there too while we got her on the ground. My plan is pull the wheels off, set the rear end on some jack stands, get it set down to ride height, and then measure 13 inches because it's a 26-inch tall wheel. And then radius amount like that, maybe a little room for clearance. And you know, we're probably gonna go lower with it. Plus there's gonna be a fuel cell and a battery in the back, so it's gonna go down more. And me being a fatty sitting in there, and Duff, it's gonna bring her down a little bit too. So let's get to cutting some rear quarters. It's the best that deck lid's looked in a long time. Weight of the car is on the springs, so now we can measure 13 inches up from the center of the axle, and that's where tire's gonna be. Oh, we're really butchering this. Weight. In reality, we should be able to trace around that. Do we live in a world of reality? Probably not. Let's give it a whirl though. That wouldn't be fun to just cut that much out. We gotta cut way more than that out.
Uh-oh.
FYI, the taillight harness runs in the left quarter panel on 56 Fords. The more you know. Race cars don't need taillights anyway. Well, this is no fun. Now I guess we gotta get the Sawzall out, because I don't know how I'm gonna be able to cut that. All right, I don't hate it, but I hate this little jog right here, and I hate to cut any more than I need to, but I think we should probably leave it for now. Maybe the car will get lower and then we'll have to radius this up and bring it back. I don't know. It looks way good. I don't know about way good. I just don't love this jog right here. I think if we blended it a little bit, that'd clean it up. Let's do that. As Kevin at Junkyard Digs would say, I had a beer about it. I'm gonna leave it. We can cut it later. I think it's gonna end up getting cut, but we don't wanna make any drastic decisions. So I'm gonna go ahead and take our pattern and go over to the other side and we'll cut that side. That way we got clearance. And as we get closer to driving this thing, obviously it's gonna get lower as you get more weight on it. And when you hit a bump, it's gonna drop down. A lot of stuff like that. So we can always cut out more, but we can't add it back in very effectively, efficiently, easily, all the 3 E's. So I'm gonna leave this side, go cut out the other side. I don't think I'm gonna find something else to work on. We gotta get rid of those headers and put the hood on it because zoomy derby car headers don't belong on NASCAR 56 Fords. Yeah, definitely gotta be lower up front, lower all the way around. I like it. I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
While I really appreciate the old Tink Tinks, they kind of screw up the option of putting a hood on this thing, and I really don't want to cut a hole in that super nice hood. So let's get these off there, see if we can scrounge up a pair of exhaust manifolds, then we can run not full exhaust, maybe put some actual boom tubes coming outside on this thing. But anyway, these got to go. So let's get the headers removed. Oh man, I forgot to put the hood pins in. Well, latch before, it should latch now. Ooh, if we get it to latch, it'll hold the front clip in place. Right? Okay, maybe not. Oh man, doesn't that thing look cool? Heck yeah. Pretty good for a bunch of junk. Wouldn't you say, Duff? No rides, so you're disappointed? My bad. Maybe next time. Fortunately, this is where we got to wrap it up this week. We are out of time. This 56 Ford is not running and driving. It needs a lot of things yet. Got to slide the engine back, got a mount front clip, get a radiator in it. You got to do fuel cell, shifter, drive shaft, get that knuckle for the steering, get that hooked up. It needs a lot of little things, but they add up. Needs exhaust, needs electrical, need to put a battery in the back. But anyway, this thing looks like a car. It was just a $100 scrap iron Hulk sitting in the yard. The Snitch Rocket was kind of the same thing, but ran and drove. And now we can actually see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think another good week of thrashing on it, we could get this thing running and driving once again. That'd be pretty awesome to do. But my old ADHD is kicking in. We need to work on something else for a little while. So if you want to own this thing, price and availability in the video description. I think I paid like $1,500 for the Snitch Rocket, and I think I only paid $100 for this car, plus the wheels and tires. $2,000. You want to own this thing? There is no title. We can help you with that process to get the title. But yeah, this thing would be pretty good. Another good week of pedaling around, and this thing could be on the road, running and driving once again, doing roundy round car, Snitch Rocket type of stuff. So yeah, hopefully somebody buys it, finishes it. Otherwise, we'll just leave her sit out back and maybe we'll find a rainy day, or maybe we'll wheel it in and Mojo will pick away at the little stuff and I'll make the drive shaft and finish up the spring mounts and all that. But thank you very much for watching. Go check out the merch, mortske.com. We got flannels, we got hoodies, we got crew necks, we got beanie caps. And guess what? We got Black Friday deals coming up. We're going to do 20% off on Black Friday, so go check out Mortskerepair on Black Friday. I do believe it's the 28th, but Chin's going to put the proper date down here. We're going to do 20% off everything at mortske.com. That includes banners, that includes magnetic screwdrivers, magnetic can koozies, super scrapers, 20% off. So go ahead and over to mortske.com and do your Christmas shopping there. So thank you very much for watching. Go check out our other videos. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And remember, it doesn't matter how you get it done, as long as you're having fun. Radius and wheel wells, real fun. All right, on to the next one. I know, Duff. no rides this week. Son of a biscuit. That light is blinding.